Management and leadership are terms often used interchangeably, but they're not the same, and effective communication is one of the talents that separates them. Here's more with Greystone Advisors Principal Jim Lara and host Lindsay Dyer on the Business Aviation Collective Podcast.
Communication skills are really important to excel as the hub. A lot of us in this position have great technical communication skills, but what we might lack is the leadership communication skills. Yes, would you have a moment to talk a little bit more about that?
Well, the first thing is terms.
Mm-hmm.
People will often interchange the word management and leadership.
Okay, yeah.
They couldn't be further apart. Things get managed like inventory. You manage inventory.
Yep. You might manage schedules, like
manage schedules,
so-and-so
right?
comes in at 8 and the other person comes in at noon. Yeah.
But people get led.
Yeah.
You don't manage people, you lead people. Think about it in the military. Have you ever heard somebody talk about managing people into battle? I haven't.
You're right. No.
You lead people. And so demonstrating those leadership skills is really key. Now, is leadership some mumbo jumbo? No. One of the most important traits of a great leader is authenticity. Be yourself.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Be predictable.
Yeah.
Be clear.
Clear. Yep.
Be clear.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So the leadership skills the communication skills in leadership, it's not hard. It's not hard. You just can't don't intimidate yourself. Because a lot of people do that. They get all worked up. They get, they get all intimidated and then they stumble around.
Yeah.
So if the CEO of the company is on the phone and she or he asks you as the scheduler a question, what do they want? They want the answer. They don't want to know how you got to the answer.
Yes.
They want the answer.
And not slowly.
No. Give it to them in 2 sentences. If their response is, thank you, you've done your job.
Yes.
If the response is, well, tell me a little bit more about it, then you have an opening to tell them a little bit more about it.
Sure.
But it's the same story. If somebody says, what time is it, Lindsay? And you say, no, wait a minute. I need to tell you about how this watch really works before I can tell you what time it is.
Yep.
Right? It's the same story.
Yep.
Right? So one of the secrets of communication at the most senior level is start with the answer. In every paragraph, the first sentence of every paragraph should tell you what's going to be in that paragraph. That's the answer for that paragraph. Start with the answer. And once you have stated what the answer is, do yourself a favor. Shut up.
Yeah.
Do not fill the silence void. If there's no no response on the phone, or if it's quiet in the room, don't feel compelled to fill the void. Just be quiet.
Such a good point. And I have a funny story, because many years ago when I worked for Cox Enterprises, we had some issues with weather, and I had to call the owner, the principal. It was at the time Jim Kennedy, and had to call him and tell him that he was going to be delayed and he might as well go back home. It's going to be like an hour or 2 delay. And I got on the phone and I did exactly what you just said I shouldn't do. And I started explaining that we checked this weather here and we went this place. And he said, no, I don't want you to know. I don't want to hear all about that. Should I turn around in my car and go back home right now or not? And that was a huge lesson for me. it was, I just want to know what I need to do now. I should say, hey, the weather's bad. Please come back in 2 hours. Done. So yeah, that was a funny story. I will never forget that. It was probably 20 years ago, and I'll never forget.
Well, there you go. There's a perfect example of communicating at the senior level.
Yeah. Yep. That's so interesting. Okay, so let's continue on kind of that same conversation. We're in, you're the scheduler, you're learning how to communicate. Are there any schools or classes that you would suggest them taking in order to get some of this knowledge?
Well, there's some things that I would suggest. First of all, if you're working in a corporation, know what the corporation does.
Mm-hmm.
Study the corporation, know the language of the corporation,
Mm-hmm.
so that you can communicate clearly at the operational level as to what that company actually does.
Yep.
If it's a private individual, what are that private individual's key hot buttons?
Mm-hmm.
Know your customer, know the ones that you're working with. In most corporations, take the business skills. Go keep learning on the business side, because that's how the company is going to make the money to pay for the flight department.
Yep.
But for God's sake, don't be a talking head. But know what's going on in the company. Be familiar with what's going on in the company. Show an interest in what's going on in the company,
Mm-hmm.
and that'll help you communicate in a meaningful way.
Yep. Like if you're a publicly held company, read all of the publications, all of the reports at the end of the year. Now I've lost my train of thought of where.
Let me give you a shortcut to that.
Okay.
Public companies now. Public.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Every quarter, they issue a quarterly report that's filed with the SEC.
Yes. Okay.
Do not read it. Do not read it.
All right.
It'll mean nothing.
All
But
right.
here's what I would do. Every quarter, the CEO or the CFO, that the chief executive officer or the chief financial officer or the chief operating officer will get on the phone with a bunch of the stock analysts, and they will take their questions and they will give a report as to what the company did in the past quarter and what their these are the words, forward-looking guidance is for the rest of the year.
Okay. Forward-looking
Listen
guidance.
to the call. It takes 30 minutes. You don't have to read anything. You don't have to subscribe to anything. You don't have to pull anything down from the website.
Mm-hmm.
Just listen to the call. They're all recorded. Every one of them are recorded.
Mm-hmm.
And so on the investor relations part of the website, it will tell you how to listen to the call.
Okay.
And and generally it's in podcast format. So
Okay.
just what you're doing now, you can do, and it's so easy. It takes 30 minutes once a quarter. Who doesn't have 30 minutes to listen to what your company's all about? And then when you're on the phone with your with the senior EA, executive assistant, or one of the C-suite members, just drop a couple lines of what you heard and say, gosh, that was a great earnings call. I was so happy to hear that our earnings per share was forecasted 9 cents a share, and you actually came in at 11. What a great job. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
And you know what that executive's going to do? He's going to take the phone, look at the phone, and he's going to say, who the hell are you? And I want to know more about you. So there you go. There's your invitation to communicate at the senior level.
And I think that loops back to where you were talking about dispatch, scheduling dispatch being the hub. If more of us were able to, or took the initiative to request and feel like we should be at those meetings, it should be at those leadership, we could use some of this forward-looking guidance. We could give our own forward-looking guidance of how we see the dispatch scheduling department going over the next 6 months or a year, or here's what we have done. I think you said it right about lead that dispatch scheduling department as if you are part of the leadership team.
You are. You have to be part of the leadership team. And go to your director of aviation or your VP of aviation and say, as a starter, I want to chair the ops call if you do an ops call once a day or once a week, I want to chair that call. And then you're the hub of that call. So you say, okay, so here's what we got coming up for the next week. Here are these trips. Now, Martha, on the logistics on the ground transportation, is everything all set? Well, we still lack this or that or the next thing. John, on the aircraft, I know you have it down for maintenance for the next 2 days. Does it look like we'll be having that aircraft up and ready for the trip, or do we have to back it up with a charter?
Yeah.
So if you are the hub, for God's sake, be the hub.
Yeah, act like it. Yep.
And go to your director and say, I want to chair these ops meetings. Then you are part of the leadership team.
That's so true. And I love that because these are actionable items. Like I can really see anybody who's listening right now being able to take this right back to their department and action it right away.
Yeah. So what are you doing when you do that, what are you doing for the aviation director? The smart aviation directors, they will realize that you are profiling them as a true leader because you're blossoming under their mentorship, under their leadership.
Sure.
So, try it.
Check out episode 39 of the Business Aviation Collective Podcast for Lindsay and Jim's full discussion. You can find it on Apple Podcasts and other platforms. And for more information about how Jim's consulting expertise can help your flight operation, visit GreystoneAdvisors.com.